What do you think of when you hear the word conflict?
Hurt.
Hurt. What else?
Anger.
Anger. What else?
Stubborn.
Stubborn. That's good.
Big time.
Yeah.
That's my husband, not me.
Stubborn. Any other words that would help us describe conflict that you can think of?
I keep thinking of compromise.
Compromise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You look for compromise.
How about winner and loser?
Yeah.
What else?
Right versus wrong.
Yeah, right versus wrong. I'm right and you're wrong. Anything else?
Violence.
Violence? Yeah. Any other thing? We could go on and on, right? I mean, like these are all words that help us describe how we view conflict. Now, here's my question for you. If you take these as a whole, would you describe these as positive or negative feelings towards conflict?
As a whole, negative.
As a whole, it's pretty negative, right? And so, is it safe to say that when we hear the word conflict, our first reaction is one that puts us in a negative state? So how many of you probably would rather avoid conflict than to tackle it, you think? Be honest. Most of us, right? Depends on who it is and you think you can win and all that stuff, right? Why is that?
It's uncomfortable.
Why is it uncomfortable?
Nobody likes to be backed into a corner. You either placate and get past it, or you fight back. So
Why is it viewed that way?
taking sides.
Why is it viewed? And look, I've been doing this for a long, long time. Done a lot of these classes. You're no different, right? Everybody feels this way about conflict. And because we have this negative connotation and this feeling towards conflict, the first thing we do is we try to avoid it. Most of us. And the question that I ask is why? Why do we feel that way? Because we'll talk about this here in a minute, but conflict is essential in business and it's essential in relationships. And I'll explain that in a minute why. But I want to talk about if we could change our perception of conflict, and this is what I hope to be able to do today, is to change your perception of what conflict actually means so that we approach it in the right way. And we solve problems instead of create more. That's the idea. The reason that you feel this way about conflict is because you have a belief scripted in your subconscious. Let me explain. Everything that you believe, spiritual, political, whatever, okay, when it comes to parenting, what are all the beliefs that you have were scripted. Most of the time at a young age, right? If you grew up in a predominantly Republican home, more than likely you have taken on the Republican view from a political standpoint. If you grew up in a Christian home, then more than likely you've taken on some of those beliefs. Our beliefs are scripted out of two things: experiences that we've had or information that we've been given. So everything that you believe is of one of those two things. Think about it. Everything that you believe is because of an experience you had or because of information that you've been given. So let me give you an example. You take a little kid, you walk him over to a hot stove, and you put his hands on it, and it burns him. What's he going to do? Ah, that hurt, right? He's going to start crying and look at you like you're crazy and whatever, right? Now you take that same kid over to another stove that's not hot and tell him to touch it. What's he going to do? No, you're crazy. Why?
Experience the phrase.
Stoves are hot. That's his belief, right? Because of this experience that he just had, his belief now is all stoves are hot. Is it true? Are all stoves hot? No. But that's now his belief. That's what was scripted because of the experience that he had. And so how do you change a belief? Because that's what we're going to have to do here today. Would you guys agree? I'm going to have to figure out a way to change your belief when it comes to conflict so that we stop avoiding it and start handling it and resolving conflict in an effective manner. Does that make sense? How do you, if our beliefs are based on experiences, then how do we change a belief?
New experiences.
Absolutely, absolutely. If we could have a new experience with it, it would change our belief. Think about all the times that you had this moment where you said, oh, that wasn't so bad, right? Or that wasn't how I thought it was going to be. See, we have these beliefs, but when we have a new experience, all of a sudden it creates this new euphoria, and this we kind of open up our mindset to what's possible. So why is it that you have this belief about conflict, you think?
Experience.
When?
When we were young.
Yeah, think back about the first time you really got in an argument with somebody. Could have been when you were a little kid at school over a toy or playground, whatever, right? It could have been when maybe you were in high school and you got a conflict with a teacher. Or maybe it was your parent, somebody that your sister, somebody. You got into conflict at some point in your life and it didn't turn out well. You were probably berated, you were probably yelled at, you were probably, Leanne, you defined it as being backed into a corner. Have you ever felt like you've been backed into a corner?
Yeah, and then you attack.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk about personalities here in a minute and how our personality causes us to respond to conflict, right? And so, yeah, we've had these experiences that were not positive ones when it comes to conflict in our personal life. Here's the problem is that we bring that into the workplace because it comes with us. It's scripted. And so now you have people in the workplace and we have conflict that arises in the workplace. So until we can change this from more of a negative look at and view of conflict to more of a positive one, because here's what you have to understand is that without conflict, there's no growth. Think about a business, for example. If you've ever read the book, I think I got it right here, actually. I'm doing a mastermind group with another client on this book. And I know that some of the leaders in this organization have read this book. But
Who's doing the cheese?
this book's called The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. If you haven't read this book, you need to read it. I don't care if you're currently in a leadership role or not. It's a great book to learn from. But the basis, and it's a story, it's a fable, right? So it's a great read. It's easy to read. It's not one of those, self-help books that say 1, 2, 3 and all this stuff. But it's a really good. It's a story about a lady that takes over as a CEO of a company and has a challenge of building an executive team that's highly dysfunctional. So, but the gist of this book and the underlying lesson is that without trust, you have nothing. Think about relationships. If you don't trust someone, what usually happens? You don't challenge them. Think about your spouse, for example. Does your spouse trust you? Hopefully most of us could say yes. Well, that's why they could tell you they don't agree with you, right? Like, I don't agree with that. Because they trust you, that your motives are right and all those things. When we don't trust someone, what do? Think about being in a meeting with a group of your subordinates or your VPs or whatever. If you don't trust those people and they challenge you on something, are you going to stand up or are you just going to cow down? Most likely you're going to cow down if there's no trust there. But if you trust them, you don't have a problem saying, I think you're wrong, even though they may be your subordinate or maybe your VP or whatever. So we have to have trust in the workplace to make that happen. And that's really the foundation of all relationships. Well, the question is, why do we have conflict? Why is there conflict in the work? I was working with a client out in Salt Lake City, Utah, and they had they were a sales team, and I was working with them, and they had about 65% of their sales force was millennials. These kids coming out of the colleges there, and young, sharp, bright young men and women. And then the other, 40% or so was made up of your traditionalist baby boomer type generations. And the sales managers were frustrated because they couldn't figure out how to motivate these millennial kids. And I said, well, tell me what you're doing to motivate your team. And of course, they give you the typical answers. And if you want a salesperson to do more, what do you usually got to do? Huh? Yeah, throw money at it, right? Hey, I'll give you a bonus if you'll do your job a little bit better. That's never made sense to me, right? But that's what they do. They throw bonuses out there, and they had so one of their bonuses was a Salesman of the Month program. It was $1,500 or $2,000 cash and a plaque and whatever, right? Just for the top. Well, the same guy, 2 guys got it every month and whatever. And so these young kids are like, you know. So one thing you have to understand is that money does not motivate millennials. Like that just has no value to them. They don't care if you throw more money at it. And so that's what they were doing. They were throwing these bonuses out there to all these kids. And these kids are going, if I win it, great. If not, no big deal, right? And so we sat down and I said, what if we did this? I said, what if you took that $1,500 and gave them a week's paid vacation and a cruise? Right? You get a cruise off of out of San Diego. There does a little trip 3-day deal for $350. Like it's nothing. Give them a week's paid vacation and send them on. They can go on the 4-day cruise, spend a day or two in San Diego, and go on the cruise, come back, and it'd be a nice little deal, right? And it took me a while to convince them, but I finally convinced them to do it. So they announced this new Sales a Month program. And of course, they got a CRM, right, a customer relationship management tool that tracks all their data and activities and all that stuff. The first 30 days, the first month after we did that, their sales increased by almost 40%. So we almost doubled their sales, which is huge, right? But what was more important is 60% of that growth come from the millennials. Activity-wise, phone calls, all of it. What caused the result was the activity from these millennials. What got them motivated to do the activity? It was something different, something they could relate to. What do millennials value? They value time off, being appreciated, all that kind of stuff, right? And so all we did, we took the same amount of money, put it restructured in a different program, and got the result that we're looking for. So that's just an example of the differences in the workplace, and we have to be able to recognize that.